and welcome to a special edition of Bluegrass Brooklyn, a report from JamVal 25. Hi there, and welcome to this special edition, episode 3 of Bluegrass Brooklyn, where we report on our adventures at JamVal 2025. But more importantly, I'd like to introduce Liz Wolfe, who's joining the show. Liz, why don't you introduce yourself?
Well, thank you so much, Mike, and thanks everyone who's listening in right now. I probably know a few of you that are listening. If you do know me, it's probably because you get the emails I send out on behalf of myself and my bluegrass husband, Ron Zwerdling. He's not my real husband, but he's certainly the person that I spend the most time with in jams. And we run a whole bunch of jams on the west side, up and through Riverdale and some surrounding areas. And I decided to get involved with this podcast because I love jamming and I love talking to people about jamming. So if you are interested in coming to our jams, you can find us online at bluegrassjamsnearme.com. It's the beginning of my bluegrass empire where we're going to have jams listed from all over the world. But right now it's just the Upper West Side. Come and play with me and Ron.
Well, thanks, Liz. It's great to have you involved with the podcast. You bring your passion and experience. For those who may not know, JamVal is an annual event up in Framingham, Massachusetts, presented by the Boston Bluegrass Union. Hundreds of people get together to jam all day, all night, take workshops with world-class musicians, join band scrambles and bluegrass karaoke and everything you can imagine. So it's a great time. We had a chance to meet with and talk to all kinds of people there, musicians, attendees, etc. In fact, the introduction and exit music and most of the music in between the segments in this show were recorded live during that event. So we're looking forward to bringing you some of the fun and the excitement we experienced. Liz, anything else you want to say before we dive in?
I think that it's fabulous how much jamming has been such an exciting and fun part of our lives. And we want to hear from some of the best musicians who are really out there helping to spread the word. And one of those people is Tony Watt. He's our first interview on this podcast, and he is definitely a man who is committed to spreading the joy of bluegrass.
Before we get started, let me remind everyone you can follow the podcast on Instagram at Bluegrass Brooklyn, and Brooklyn is spelled BKLYN. Also on Facebook, Bluegrass Brooklyn. Contact us at mike@bluegrassbrooklyn.com. So with no further ado, let's dive right in.
You're a legend.
That is not true, but thank you for...
But you're a legend in the jamming world because of this incredible festival that you're putting on here.
Thanks for saying that. Yeah, I wish I could take credit for this really cool idea, but it's this guy Jim McDonough who's a member of the BBU board for many years, and he had this idea that we could have an event that would be just like JamVal but without the bands. And as soon as he said it, I could just see it in my mind's eye, and I was like, that's amazing. I would love to be there. That sounds like a ton of fun.
Yeah, so you get a few hundred people to show up at this.
Yeah. I don't know the final number yet, but I'm guessing over 400 people.
Who knew there were that many jammers that would be willing to travel someplace, book rooms in a hotel, stay overnight, and basically jam? You have jams happening from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., along with the band scramble. You've got the bluegrass karaoke, all those things. And every jam I've been in, people have been very excited. You've got awesome jam leaders. Because I know there's a whole instrument part of this too, where people are going to classes and workshops, but I'm mostly interested in the jamming. What do you feel like is most compelling to people that they would be excited to come for a whole weekend and just sit around and jam with each other? You put together this anchor event, which has some history through JamVal. People knew that. They knew the quality of that. There's been a couple of JamVals now. And so, but you're drawing a few hundred people. And I feel like there might be people out there in the world that would go, I never even heard of bluegrass. I never even, I don't even know it. What's that? And then yet there's that much quorum of people wanting to come together. And so I wanted to get a sense from you, from your perspective, of what you think is so compelling for people to come to an event like this, to jam.
In the bigger picture of jamming, bluegrass jamming in particular is one of the most sticky things in the whole world of bluegrass. Once you get into it, you really don't want to do anything else. It's not just an individual experience, it's this group experience, and it's a lot of fun for everyone. So I see people again and again getting to that point where they can contribute to a jam and learn from it and have that experience. And that happens all over the world of bluegrass, all over the world in general. And with this event in particular, we really are building on the legacy of the JamVal Bluegrass Festival, which has been going in this hotel for not quite 20 years, but getting there. And people know the space, and they know the community, and they know what they're in for when they come here already. And I should say, we're really looking forward, it's not 100% confirmed, but that we'll be back right here in this hotel and this weekend next year with a full-on JamVal Bluegrass Festival, which will be just like this JamVal, except for we'll have the big old ballroom upstairs.
Oh, wow.
Open with the stage and bands, big top touring bands. That event's much bigger, many hundreds more people coming.
So more jamming.
More jamming, or even more jamming.
Yeah. Tell me if this is accurate. You talk about coming into jamming to begin with, and I know that you are a guitar teacher. You also teach harmony.
Yeah.
And I've always gotten a sense from going to any of your classes or anything that you're very committed to that first level of getting people started in bluegrass.
Yeah.
Because when I started playing, first of all, I didn't play any instrument, and I'm a singer. I didn't play any instrument. Then I played the ukulele, and there's a lot of people that give you the side eye if you bring a ukulele. And I remember taking a class with you, and I brought my ukulele, and you didn't give me the side eye. And guess what? I just made that transition to a guitar, which a lot of people would say, go straight to the guitar, but I couldn't make that.
Yeah.
So all of that to share my personal story, to say that I know that about you, that you're very committed to bringing new people in.
That's challenging whenever we join this community that already exists. New people are always playing catch up and trying to figure out what's acceptable and what is going to make it challenging for other people. And in the long run, ukulele is tough just because it's too quiet for bluegrass. And if you want to contribute, people actually want to hear you. They really want to hear you. They want you to contribute. And so when you play an instrument that's much quieter than other bluegrass instruments, then they can't hear you, and that makes them feel like they're not doing the right thing. Same thing, by the way, when every once in a while somebody comes with a saxophone or something to a bluegrass jam, which you can play it appropriately, you can play the right notes, but can you play the right volume so that you're making space for all the other instruments? In the long run, do the most people in the community want them to take up one of the 6 most common bluegrass instruments? Yeah, probably we do. Yeah, that's challenging.
So in the category of a mini segment of category of a jamicdote, what's the weirdest instrument that you've ever, or you know what I mean, that you've ever had show up?
We have this event called Bluegrass Tuesdays, which is in Cambridge, Mass, and it's Lily P's now celebrating over 30 years of bluegrass in the city of Cambridge. One night we had 3 harpists all show up. Not harmonica, but maybe
3 at once.
3 on the same night. I don't think they necessarily knew that each other were, maybe 2 of them knew the other were coming.
What bat signal went out?
I don't know, and I don't think I've seen one since. I think we peaked at 3 and they haven't been back. So I don't know if it was technically the weirdest, but that there were 3 of them on the same night was definitely really cool.
Okay, so my last question, your top tip for a new jammer coming in. You're just getting into bluegrass, and you don't, maybe you came to a bluegrass jamming class like the Wernick classes. They've taken up the mandolin, or they something, and they're like, I want a bluegrass jam, or they have a teacher that recommends they go to a jam. What's your top tip?
Well, it's really interesting. It's so cool to see how things change over time. Many years ago, before the internet connected everything, there was a real common way that people would enter into bluegrass, and they would choose an instrument, they would fall in love with the banjo or the mandolin or whatever, and they would find a teacher, and they would have someone teach them bluegrass on their instrument, and they would just do lessons and stay at home and play 2-3 years oftentimes, and get pretty good, but just sort of going each week or whatever to their teacher and playing with their teacher. These were called closet pickers. They had their own name because they were so common. Someone was actually getting pretty good, but just at home.
Yeah.
And then, so they'd get good, and then they would start going to jams, and the average jams then that were in the public were higher level because beginners didn't know how to find them and get into them at that point. And so these closet pickers would show up and watch, and then they would learn some of the ropes, and then they would get involved, and they would actually already have a bunch of the skills to play the music, and then they would just be learning the jamming skills later. Now, with the internet connecting everything, it's a great revolution in learning bluegrass jamming because people can learn how to jam much earlier on in their process than they used to. And so now someone can just get going with a few chords, maybe a few solos, and they can get started doing real bluegrass jamming, which is really fun and exciting because that's the sticky part of the music. How else could you want people to get into this music? It's gonna motivate you to work so much harder with on your instrument and learning jamming in general. And you can't beat nowadays. You can't beat things like the Wernick method class. I have bluegrass jamming classes I teach in the Boston area all the time. You can't beat that for having someone explain the ropes to you. Not that you can't learn them socially, just through the community. You can. But it's an efficient way to learn is to get in the room with someone who knows the kind of pitfalls you might run into and can advise you how to get going with it. So that's my top advice is seek out some instruction in jamming early on.
Yeah,
And
great.
then just try and do it as often as you can.
So I have one question. How can people find out about and get involved with the Boston Bluegrass Union?
Everything we do is posted on our website, which is bbu.org. We got just the 3-letter URL, so easy to find. And there we post information about our concert series and this JamVal event and the JoVal when it returns. Tons of opportunities for young people. So really logging on the website and finding out what we're up to there is the best way, but you can become a member there. You can contact us if you're interested in volunteering, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah,
Thank
you so much for taking the time of your busy day with your sound equipment and everything to come and do an interview with us.
Over the course of the 2 days of JamVal, Liz and I got to meet, jam with, and talk to all kinds of musicians and players. The diversity of attendees is amazing and really added to the energy of the event. Here you have Molly, who was sitting in her first jam session ever. So let's hear what she had to say and what her experience was.
Hi, Molly.
Hi, Liz.
Thanks for coming on our podcast.
Of course, absolutely.
We're here at JamVal in Massachusetts, and I hear tell this is something about your first bluegrass jam experience?
I've been working up for it. I started playing banjo in June. I'm taking lessons with James Hanford in Somerville, Massachusetts. So we've been practicing quite a bit for today.
And how did you hear about this particular event?
My teacher told me about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he said, you could go down and there'll be hundreds of bluegrass jammers just hanging out and having fun.
He said this is the event of the season.
And so before this, you really literally hadn't been to any jams? Or?
I haven't been to any jams. He had walked me through what to expect and everything, but this morning I sat in one, and then about 30 minutes ago I played in my first.
So tell us about your first impression of how fun a bluegrass jam is, or I don't want to put words in your mouth. So
I think it's, I grew up playing viola and piano. Everything was off of sheet music. This is the first kind of community-driven music I've been exposed to. It's neat to see everybody kind of build something together.
Yeah. So you're playing the banjo. Did you take some breaks?
I took a break, yes. I'm gonna have to keep practicing, but
What happened in your brain when you were like, I have to take a break now?
I think no matter how much I was practicing it all week, and whatever I played was certainly not what I had practiced, but...
And what had you pick the banjo of all instruments in the world?
One had popped up on Craigslist, and I grew up in Virginia, so this was kind of the music around the area, but up here one had popped up on Craigslist, and it was a good time for a hobby, so...
Took banjo. Okay, so what was, when you went to the jam, you know, what did you notice that was maybe unexpected, or?
I was expecting more songs I knew. I think I've got a Spotify playlist now that's like 50 hours long, and I thought I, knew every song out there, but there are still some common ones I don't have on there, so I'll be definitely adding some of those onto my list.
You know, I've found interesting when I come, because I'm based in New York City, as this is Brooklyn podcast, and it's regional. Like if you come to New York, there'll be different songs that they play at every jam, and then if you're here, right, there's actually different songs that people play. So repeated exposure really gets you more to know more songs. The other thing I've noticed is that it feels like people know hundreds of songs, but actually they just play the same songs over and over again. It's true. I went from one jam, played Tear My Stilettos Down, then I went to another jam, I looked around and was like, nobody was here from the last jam, so I'm going to play it again. Yeah. So now, I mean, you came to this place with hundreds. Do you have other opportunities to jam closer to where you are?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Lily Pease is the hottest place to go in Cambridge for some good bluegrass. So I'll start, this kind of broke the ice for me on the jams today, so I'll start going to their Tuesday jam sessions.
Yeah. And so I'm also curious to know, what would have been most helpful to you to know coming in as a first-time jam?
Yeah, I think it's just to know that it was an extremely supportive environment, and it's okay to make mistakes, and as long as you're having fun, that's what counts.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good closing statement. You have...
I wanted to ask you a question. I wanted to put you on the spot. What was the favorite song you heard today?
Oh, I'm a huge sucker for "Bury Me Beneath the Willow." I think it's pretty beautiful.
All right, that's pretty classic. And what's your next? What's your bluegrass plan from here on in?
I'm gonna keep getting better, trying to get faster, and keep playing some more jams.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Really appreciate you taking a moment with us.
Yeah, and I have a little advice for you. I was once a first-time bluegrass. I didn't play any instrument at that time, and then I played the ukulele, and now I play the guitar and evidently the bass. But my thing is, here's my strategy. I go in and I just let people play for a while, and then I'll kind of chime in with some harmony or something, and then because sometimes what happens is if people don't know you, they won't invite you to take a song unless it's a very deliberate, going in a circle. And so I just patiently wait until people have mostly gone and they kind of can't ignore me anymore. And then I'll just say, I'll do one. And then they're all relieved because you're like, oh, okay. And then you take one, and then you just got to pick that, come up with 3 songs that you use all the time, and then just do one of those 3 songs. So
yeah, Liz is giving you the key. Just have a few in your pocket.
Yeah.
You'll probably be in pretty good shape. Anyway, thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I hope you have a great rest of your weekend.
Thanks.
Okay,
You
we'll
too.
see you around to
Thank
play.
My heart is sad and I am lonely for...
Mike Bub, bass playing legend.
Say it loud, say it proud.
Bass playing legend. I've seen your name around. I've heard you playing. We had the opportunity to talk to Michael Daves and do an episode with him. And he mentioned your involvement in his Orchids and Violence project.
I was on the Orchids part.
So first of all, you're here at JamVal. What's your agenda here for the weekend?
Well, basically, they hired some of us to come up from Nashville and just participate in some jams and do a few little workshops. And we're gonna do a karaoke thing after a while where you sing with a live band, and then we'll be doing a little set later. But basically this is just replacing the JamVal Festival, an interim event for the JamVal Festival, which I think will be back next year. But it just brings all these people together to pick and play music and sit around and talk to each other. It's kind of a fun, it's just a way to get the community together here in February.
I dropped in on one of your classes, and I was quite interested that the whole discussion, I would say 95%, was about musicianship and playing ensemble, and 5% was sort of technical.
Yeah, when you teach a bass workshop, there's a lot of conversation because it's hard to show everybody at the same time how to play something and get a bunch of bass players. You're not accompanying anybody, and nobody's accompanying you, so it's a lot about the thought process of playing the bass and how to stay ahead of the game as you're playing a song and listening and noticing which ways the melody's going and to follow that and all those kind of mental type things. I described it as when you drive a car, instead of just looking out right in the front of your bumper, you look out ahead, and it's the same with playing a song. You have to know where you're going to be going, and you're thinking about how you're going to get there.
I couldn't help but think about sight reading when you're talking about you got to be looking ahead and know what's coming up and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Fascinating. I got a lot out of it. So,
good.
You have a storied history in bluegrass. I'm going to put you on the spot.
Been at it for a while.
So I'm going to put you on the spot for the first time. Your favorite band organization involvement over the years, or the one that stands out the most?
Well, the main one was my 13 years with Del McCoury.
Del.
And that was from 92 to 2005.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, Del had just moved to Nashville, and he had gone from being a well-known regional act to really, truly a national act. And when I joined the band, it was all an ascension up to getting the more notoriety for Del and his music, and we accomplished a lot of that. And my tenure was capped with a Grammy Award for the last album that I played on with him. And that was their first Grammy Award. And so that was a really seminal part of my life and really shaped a lot about my playing. And of course, playing with somebody like that, when I left the band, I didn't know what I was going to do. And I realized, you know what, instead of chasing something, let the music come to me. And so I just took a pause. I took a job, and the next thing I know, I'm working with Peter Owen and Tony Rice and Dale Ann Bradley and Vince Gill, and just things start happening. It takes a while to get back into the flow because, people have to leave a band to create an opening or whatever. Right. So I was freelancing, basically. And since that time, I've been playing pretty regular with Tim O'Brien and recorded a bunch of records with him. These days, I kind of I freelance still, but I play with Tim O'Brien and Peter Owen and Caleb Clowder and Reeb Williams. I just did a country album with them that just came out in the fall.
I hear that with Del, what you see is what you get.
Yeah, he's very, very much the same on stage as he is off the stage. Cool. Very, very nice guy.
So I'm going to put you on the spot one more time. Your favorite bass player?
Well, it depends. I never say, I have favorites.
Okay.
I wouldn't say a favorite because, it's not really always a best. There's just different. Everybody has a sort of different application.
Let me ask the question differently then. What would be your bass player Mount Rushmore for bluegrass?
Okay, there you go. Well, we'd have to start with Bob Moore, who was considered the king of the bass in Nashville. Mm-hmm. He was a Nashville native who recorded probably more sessions and more records than anybody in history in that town, starting in the early 50s. Very distinctive. You can hear his bass on those records and just the way that he played with an authority and a confidence, and a sound. But there's others. There's, of course, Junior Husky, and then his son, Roy Husky Jr. And Roy was probably my closest to me hero, to see him play. And when I moved to Nashville, he was probably the only first call top upright bass player that played country and roots music and bluegrass and stuff. And he was on a lot of records that I had heard.
That's two.
And then, of course, in the Del McCoury band, Del's brother Jerry was a big influence on me. I borrowed a lot from Uncle Jerry. And Del never really told me how to play as much as you sort of adapt yourself to the McCoury sound. They have collectively a rhythm and a sound. And so I borrowed things from Jerry, but Del also allowed me to bring in my own things and sort of create my own sort of sound behind him. But Jerry's right up there with me. I call him the last of the great blue-collar bluegrass bassmen,
Right.
He's just one of the greatest. Now, outside of bluegrass and country music, you have to acknowledge people like Ray Brown, who had decades of a career, but he was probably the preeminent jazz bassist. I love the recordings that he made with Oscar Peterson on piano and a guy named Ed Thigpen on drums. And that trio, to me, is just, I love to listen to the bass playing on that. Very melodic and just an amazing player.
You don't know how important a bass is until you don't have one.
That's right. It's primal. You can walk up to a jam session that doesn't have a bass and start playing, and all of a sudden you are the hero. Because everybody comes to the bass, especially if it's solid, everybody will come to it. You could walk out in the middle of this room out here and just start playing, and musicians would come to you.
It's like
moths to a flame.
So what would you offer as advice to the bass curious or those who are just starting out?
As I say, everybody's a bass player. It doesn't matter what instrument you play. Everybody can play the bass. Very few actually choose the responsibility of playing the bass or have a real passion for it.
Responsibility.
Yeah, and that is that the bass has a place in music, especially when we're talking bluegrass music. It's the very foundation of it all. And so you have to play with confidence. You can't be timid in your playing. You can't be willy-nilly. You have to play with authority and lay down where the beat is. It's a hard place to get to. It takes a lot of work to get there. There's, first of all, getting a good tone and learning the fingerboard of the bass, but then there's also repertoire. Mm-hmm. And all that comes from practical experience. So I always tell people, take a few lessons to get started. I played 5-string banjo first, and then I went to the bass. So I was preloaded with all this repertoire. I knew how all these tunes went because I was learning breaks to songs. I was learning instrumental tunes, bluegrass tunes. So I had this big bag of songs that I knew. And that really helped me. I just needed to figure out how to actually play the bass. And once I kind of unlocked some of the things on the bass and kind of realized it's just the bottom 4 strings of the guitar, it started coming natural to me. And then you start listening and you just start discovering who these other bass players are and what makes them unique and special. And you absorb some of that, and it'll come out in your playing. But the best thing you could do is get in a band. There's an old joke about the kid that wants to learn to play the bass. So his first lesson, comes home and Dad says, how was your first lesson? He said, well, we learned the G string. We went up and down the G string, learned all the notes. And then the next week he goes for the next lesson and Dad says, how was your lesson? He goes, well, we looked at the G string again, but we learned the D string today. And then the third lesson is, how was your lesson? He goes, I didn't have a lesson, I had a gig. And all of a sudden, you're playing, you're off and running, So once you kind of figure it out, it becomes kind of intuitive in a way. But being in a band is where you can really kind of focus on things like rhythm and how to put a feel on a song or a groove that is not just real super square. You can make it swing more. You can make it like a 4/4 shuffle type sound or play like a 2-beat bluegrass type sound. A lot of it has to do with how other people play or how a song should be treated. You don't want to make a sad song too happy, so you don't want to put the wrong elements in there. But all that comes from practical experience, and you get that by playing in a band.
We have a Wednesday night jam at Adelia's Lounge in Bay Ridge. We started off by making sure we have a spot for a bass player and a guitar player, and I play fiddle. So there's always like a band. Having the opportunity, for me especially, to play in a band. Yeah. First of all, I haven't been playing bluegrass music but for a year and a half or so. And I started out, I said to my wife, my dream is to play in a bluegrass band. Now I had to put the band together, find the venue, and all this other, all myself, but here I am.
Here you already got a podcast now.
And now I'm podcasting about it. That's right. I understand you're headed east and north, right? From Nashville to Brooklyn, right?
Well, in a couple weeks I'll be back up to New York, start a tour with Caleb Clowder and Reed Wilms with Shad Cobb on fiddle. And we're going to start in New York City at Jalopy.
For those of us who don't know, Jalopy Theater is sort of like the center of gravity for bluegrass music in Brooklyn. Yeah. And Brooklyn is the bluegrass borough, as we all know.
The bluegrass borough. Yeah, Jalopy on the 28th. That's a Friday night.
And then you're just going to swing through the Northeast?
Yeah, then from there we go to Cafe Lena. That's up in Saratoga. And then up to Maine and New Hampshire and Boston.
Where can the listeners find more information about your tour? Do you have a website or something?
Well, that will be with Caleb Clowder. And you just go to his website, calebclowder.com. Clowder is spelled with a K, K-L-A-U-D-E-R. And the album that I just made with him is a country album with a 6-piece country band.
Oh, what's it called?
It's called Gold in Your Pocket. It's out. And,
nice.
But on this tour, we'll just be 4-piece with fiddle. Caleb plays mandolin, Reed plays the guitar.
Favorite song on that album?
Gold in Your Pocket.
Mike, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you for visiting with me.
On me, darling, until we settle in, and I'll be gold in your pocket. I'll be water in your well, and I'll be sunshine.
One of the cool things about an event like JamVal, you get people who've been going for years and years, and they know each other, and they've been playing with each other, and the music gels that much better, and they really add a lot to the jam and the overall energy of the event. Here you have Bruno, an accomplished fiddler and banjo player, and let's hear what his experience of JamVal is. So we're here with Bruno. Just wanted to buttonhole him and get his impressions of jamming here at JamVal. So first of all, how are you doing?
Wonderful. Having a great time.
Getting any sleep?
Yes. Yeah, between the hours of like 3:30 or 4 and 10 or 11, yes.
There you go. So let me ask a couple of questions. First, what's your favorite jam song to call?
Oh, geez. That's always a hard question for me. I think the one I just called, Tell Me Baby Why You've Been Gone So Long.
It's rollicking. Are you a banjo playing fiddler or fiddle playing banjo player?
Yeah, I don't know. I picked up banjo first, and I really liked it a lot, but I just got a lot more calls for fiddle, so I spent most of the years I've been playing more fiddle.
You play professionally?
No, I wouldn't say that.
Semi-professionally, but you're in a band.
Yeah, I have a small, like a trio upstate called Catskill Mountain String Band.
Do you have any shows coming up for the band?
Yeah, we play in Woodstock once or twice a month at a place called Catskill Mountain Pizza, which is a great place. They've been Brian Ropes is a bluegrasser and owns the place. Been having bluegrass there for like almost 20 years, I think.
Cool.
We're playing in a couple other places in Kingston, a place called Tilda's, Rough Draft Bar and Grill. We'll be playing the Bearsville Bluegrass Festival again. We've
Nice.
done that last few years. It's a one-day festival in Bearsville.
So to the listeners who haven't yet gone onto Instagram and checked out the Catskill Mountain String Band, strongly recommend it. What are your objectives for the weekend here? It's a crazy weekend, jamming 24/7. What are you looking forward to?
Yeah, I never really quite planned it out. I love the thing of just jumping in and meeting people I've never met before, playing with the people that I see all the time. So I just kind of wander around and look for the next fun thing to do.
Put you on the spot. Favorite fiddle player of all time?
Byron Berline.
Whoa, that was no hesitation whatsoever.
Yeah, no,
Tell me why.
Maybe because it was one of the first really like bluegrass players that I listened to actually backing up vocal music and that sort of thing. I mean, I listened to the Kenny Baker Plays Bill Monroe stuff like everybody does, and I listened to a lot of the Bill Monroe and Flat and Scruggs recordings, and I heard all that fiddle playing, but when I heard Country Gazette's Trader in Our Midst and Don't Give Up Your Day Job, the two albums that have Byron Berline on them, I was just, quite honestly, almost all the time when I'm trying to back up vocals, I'm thinking of his playing on those two albums.
Okay, I know we got a lot to do today. Thanks a lot for taking time with us.
Oh, you're welcome.
Every time it rains, Lord, I run to my window. All I want to do is bring my head to low. Listen to that gun, roar, can you hear that long whistling noise? Tell me, baby, now why have you gone so long?
So we are here with Maddie, Denton, and Harry Clark of East Nash Grass. We're here at the JamVal Festival, non-festival in Framingham, Massachusetts. So first of all, how are you guys liking the weather?
I'm built for this weather. I'm enjoying it.
Me, not quite as much built for it, but enjoying it nonetheless. And I'm enjoying being inside and looking outside at the snow.
There we go. So tell me what you're doing here this weekend. What's your agenda?
We are teaching some workshops, and we are participating in the instructor concert, I think, that's happening on Saturday evening. And
I think we're considered jammers at large.
oh,
Nice. So just in case, on the off chance of one of our listeners don't know exactly who you are, Maddie Denton is the fiddler for East Nash Grass and a member of Mike's Mount Rushmore for fiddlers. And Harry Clark is a mandolin player, mandolinist.
Yeah, I'll take it.
All right. For East Nash Grass as
You've
well.
been called worse.
I've been called worse.
So I'm gonna put you on the spot, Harry.
Okay.
If you were gonna say 4 mandolin players that carve into your Mount Rushmore, who would you put up there? And why?
And why? First would have to be Adam Steffi, because Adam was the first mandolin player that really got me wanting to pursue mandolin as seriously as I have. It just spoke to me at a young age. Definitely Adam's up there. Another one would have to be David Grisman. He isn't not the greatest mandolin player alive. He isn't not that. He's just so influential, and his styles cover so many different genres, really. He's just amazing. Another one is Tim O'Brien. Timo's one of my all-time favorite mandolin players. He's so creative, and the way he plays is just kind of this stream of consciousness approach that I love. It's like he's always going to play something creative and different. I'm always surprised by what he plays. And then I would probably have to say next is, it's hard.
Spot number 4 is always the hardest to fill because there's 75
Yeah, there are
players.
75 others. It would have to be or Frankenstein love child of Ronnie McCurry and Sam Bush. He hasn't, it has to be that Frankenstein love child.
Okay. Good one. And no one's ever thought to combine them in the lab. And
Cut them down the middle and then seam them together, and that's my 4th favorite mandolin players: Ronnie McCurry, Sam Bush, a Franken Mando player.
All right, Maddie, you're up.
Okay.
Your fiddle playing Mount Rushmore.
Gosh, that's such a hard question. I would have to say Stuart Duncan, because when I listen to Stuart Duncan, what he plays is just right. I heard a solo of his on Jim Mills's album, My Dixie Home, and first song on there is My Dixie Home, and Stuart Duncan's solo made me want to quit my job. That was like push me over the edge of I want to quit my job and pursue this full time. Yeah, listeners, check out Stuart Duncan's playing on that Jim Mills record.
Okay, so that's Stuart Duncan.
So
Go
Stuart
ahead.
Duncan. Then I would have to say Joe Venuti. I love his record with Tony Romano so much, and as a kid I was afraid of the dark, and I would listen to that record to go to sleep at night, and it was just so soothing, and it's just such a powerful record, and Joe Venuti has influenced so many. So he's not a bluegrass guy, he's a jazz guy, but so influential. Number 3, probably have to say Terry Morris, who was one of the fathers of Texas-style fiddling, which has been a huge part of my life and of my fiddling. And I would listen to Terry Morris a lot. His recordings were just so great. For my 4th one, I would probably have to say 2 as well, because I'm going to steal your idea. I think that was great. 2 guys that are kind of my generation, a little bit older than me, but Billy Contreras and Nate Leith. Billy's doing stuff with the fiddle that has never really been done before, and it's really inspirational. And Nate just channels his musicianship from somewhere else, it seems. He makes me feel something every time he picks his fiddle up, and it's powerful. So that would be my Mount Rushmore of fiddlers.
Well done, well done. I'm going to ask you one question, Harry. Do you have a teacher who had a singular impact on you, really?
Yeah, totally. So I'm from Arkansas, and in Arkansas there are bluegrass musicians, but they're kind of few and far between, and the really, really good ones kind of stay to themselves. They're kind of private people, and I understand that. But one fellow in particular is from Little Rock, Arkansas, a guy named Bill Nesbitt, had probably the biggest impact on me as far as a local musician growing up and a mentor. Not only is he a very accomplished Monroe-style mandolin player and studied a lot of David Grisman and Ricky Skaggs style of mandolin playing, he kind of had his own approach to that. But he was also a student of Django Reinhardt, especially his guitar playing, and he knew all sorts of Django Reinhardt solos and heads and chords. And when I was about 13, he got me and my brother to play in a hot club style band where we played Django Reinhardt tunes.
Neat.
And instead of a fiddle player, I was the mandolin player in the band. And it really just kind of formed a way for me to play music that wasn't just bluegrass. I had to like stretch out a little bit and kind of learn to open my ears. And yeah, Bill Nesbitt for sure.
Awesome. I'm hearing a lot of names I now have to track down and listen to here. Okay, Maddie, words of wisdom for the fiddle player who wants to be the best fiddle player they can be.
I have learned recently that music is to be made with others. Harry said that in the workshop a few minutes ago. Music is best enjoyed with others. I think in order to be a musician that people want to play with and enjoy playing with, you have to be a good listener. I think it's more about what you don't say with your instrument than what you do say. And when you do say something with your instrument, have it be in response to what someone else has already said, rather than sitting there not really listening to what's going on and thinking about what you're going to play. Think about what's being played and how you can add to that.
Cool. Okay, thank you for that. So what do you guys have? I know you have a lot of things coming up. What's first? What's next?
Well, yeah, we've got a tour coming up in the Northeast that we're really excited about. We've got some dates coming up in New York.
Our March tour will start out actually in February. The end of February we'll start in the Down Home in Johnson City, Tennessee, kind of a classic bluegrass club out there that's been around for a while. And then we'll be in 5 Points Music Sanctuary in Roanoke, Virginia. And then
on March 1st?
Yeah, it's March 1st. March 2nd, we'll be at the Ram's Head Tavern in Annapolis, Maryland. And then on the 3rd of March, we'll be at Hill Country Barbecue Market in New York on March 3rd.
And we were told to go check out Mona's.
Yes.
After that.
Yeah.
Mona's is a A-list player jam, and folks like you kind of all of a sudden show up there. Just be prepared. The playing area is about as big as half this table. You had like 7 players in there, 1 mic, but man, you get some really hot players, and it's Monday nights.
I've actually been to Mona's about 2 times.
Have you played?
Well, yeah, a couple years ago, I went up there with mandolin player Jenny Lynn Gardner. She did a tour of shows up in the Northeast one winter, and we frequented Mona's probably 2 times, and yeah, I got to see the jamming area.
It's intimate.
Yeah, it is intimate.
Yeah.
Oh, that's exciting. Well, look, I'm looking forward to seeing you guys.
We're excited.
Thank you so much for taking time with us here up in JamVal in Framingham, Mass. It's Maddie Denton, fiddle player, Harry Clark, mandolinist from East Nash Grass. Thanks a million.
Yeah, thank you.
Let's go over some upcoming shows and jams that you really ought to know about going on in and around Brooklyn. First of all, on February 28th, Mike Bub will be appearing at the Jalopy Theater. The Jalopy Theater is at 315 Columbia Street in Brooklyn, New York. Sunday, March 2nd, Christian Apuzzo and the Brooklyn Bluegrass Collective will be playing at Delia's Lounge. Delia's is at 93rd Street and 3rd Avenue in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn. And on Sunday, March 3rd, East Nash Grass will be appearing at Hill Country Barbecue Market. That's on 30 West 26th Street in Manhattan. Some great shows coming up. Some jams you need to be aware of. Wednesday nights, Delia's Lounge. We start at 6, go to 9. Delia's is at 93rd Street and 3rd Avenue in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn. Contact Mike at bluegrassbrooklyn.com for more information. On Sunday, the Sunday Bluegrass Session starts at 4 o'clock and goes till 7. You can contact Sean Kershaw on Facebook or at Sean Kershaw 1 on Instagram. And on Sundays, we have the Posh Jam. That's Liz's Uptown Jam. That's Sunday 2 to 5 p.m. Go to bluegrassjamsnearme.com for more information. All right, thanks a lot for joining us here on Bluegrass Brooklyn. That wraps up the show for this time, and we're looking forward to seeing you again. Liz?
Yeah, next episode, we're inviting Sheriff Bob on to our show. Sheriff is, of course, a local celebrity here in New York City, and he's going to be sharing his great story. And then also, you're going to be getting a preview of some information about another hotel-style takeover jam that's happening out in New Jersey, Jam Jersey. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Okay, folks, thanks again for joining us. And don't forget to follow us at Bluegrass Brooklyn on Instagram, Bluegrass Brooklyn on Facebook. You can contact us at mike@bluegrassbrooklyn.com. And don't forget, check out Liz and her jams. Go ahead over to bluegrassjamsnearme.com. Okay, folks, we hope to see you around the jam circle. Take care. We're listening to music recorded live in a jam session at JamVal 25.